And we are back for another episode of the Black Stitch Hockey Cast, episode 61. Really getting back into the stride and the swing of things after a few weeks off during the holidays. Getting a little bit more consistent here as every major hockey league's really rolling on at this point. You know, PWHL in full swing, NCAA in full swing. NHL pretty active, gearing closer to the Four Nations face-off. You know, as we cover here, all the junior and CHL Dev leagues also really getting underway, really in the thick of things. You're really pros of really everything going on. You know, we're truly achieving winter here in New England with our first snowstorm in over a year out here. Looking at 6 to 10 inches tonight, which is, above average. Perfect hockey weather. Perfect time to watch the Bruins potentially, hopefully, lose at home in front of San Jose, which is really what Martin Luther King Jr. would have wanted, is the city of Boston getting its comeuppance. If you know, you know. Bill Russell could tell you all about it. R.I.P. to the GOAT.
It is ironic, though, that on the night that he was assassinated, the thing that saved the city from being destroyed was a James Brown concert. Like, people were pissed here, but James Brown basically saved the entire city of Boston with his show at the Old Garden.
Yeah, back when the Garden used to keep its lights on and things that went on in that building were actually entertaining.
I could dig rapping, etc.
I mean, I don't know. The downside to my day is the Ducks road trip is over and I haven't seen Greg Cronin let go yet. So, though, I got to give the man a lot of credit. It took him 123 games to realize that he should be playing McTavish with Carlson. Like, I don't really have words to explain. Like, wow, you put Carlson with a big-bodied bully who can make skill plays in tight spaces along the wall to free up pucks and get into transition. How it took over 100 games to realize that they have complementary skill sets to one another really makes me wonder how much film and how much how the fuck do you coach this team every night? How do you watch this team play every fucking night and not realize and I know you could go down a similar rabbit hole with Tortorella at this point, but by God, the amount of coaches that watch their team play every fucking night and somehow, some way don't realize guys having complementary skill sets to one another, bruh. This would be like fucking Nick Sirianni not realizing Saquon Barkley would play well behind that offensive line.
Yeah, at least he like somehow, and it's like Kellen Moore, that's their OC, right?
Yeah.
They finally wised up and realized they should just have a ground heavy game and exploit the fact that they had this generational talent to cover up the fact that Jalen Hurts is actually better at finding sacks than Jalen Carter. If we're being honest. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is aside from having a good symbiotic relationship with Jet Luchenko in his few games up, I thought the most conventional wisdom thing that should have stuck was when the Couturier, Michkov, Konechny line, that was the other really successful thing that made sense as with aside from Luchenko as a Michkov cohort. And it's just it worked brilliantly for 3 games. They destroyed that they destroyed Minnesota at a point where Minnesota was very like, much like on a roll as they were in the early stages of the season, and then they just got away from it. Part of it is Konechny does not want to play on the left side, but like I feel like it's kind of an indictment of the vet in his late 20s that he is just like uh, uh, totally unwilling to adapt, especially to the benefit of this rookie talent. And it's also interesting. You can even get down to like the brass tacks of like the untapped potential, which I think actually is. I think this is the thing that can actually like be the smart way for the Flyers to construct their offensive architecture, so to speak. Uh, I look back to how the Rangers exploited the Messier Leach combo, and uh, differing skill sets, especially with the forward analog, less so with the defenseman, but not exactly a one-for-one match. But I think the minutes, especially when you looked at their expected goal shares together, when Mitchkov and Jamie Drysdale are together on the ice, like they're phenomenal when that back and forth is allowed to be a thing, but they don't. But in line with the fact that those guys don't play enough as is, especially Mitchkov, they don't get a lot of time together. Even though, like, I anticipate that in a few years, like this, like high IQ forward, who is like effectively like a faster player than he actually is due to the efficiency of his movement and his ability to make reads, along with the fact that Drysdale is, phenomenal as like a four-way skater, particularly in that lateral movement respect, which we now are seeing him translate into points. With him having put together a little bit of a run now to complement his phenomenal underlyings ever since returning from the injury, like that, in a few years, and over like the next like just like increasingly over the next couple of seasons is going to be the thing that would make sense as like the Flyers' vision to be like a competitive team again. But it's like even knowing that it's going to be a bit before that it hits its absolute ceiling, it's like I feel like, and even knowing that they can probably get there anyways, I feel like that partnership should be getting more reps than it is currently.
Absolutely. You know, it's a crazy. I'm gonna save my college football. Yeah, my college football. Yeah, right. Fucking sport. My college hockey meltdown for the big finish. I owe them. I owe a specific team my yearly meltdown, but I'll save that for the end of the night because with big disappointment comes big finish.
Valid.
Um,
I think I know who it is because we discussed this behind closed doors briefly. To the point, and you were so on with your assessment that I didn't even point out the caveat about it. There are actually a couple now that I think about it, but it was like, yeah, the general veneer is so right here that I'm just gonna laugh.
but on terms to college hockey, Mascot Chaos. We saw MCLA really hang in tight last night with Plymouth in a 3-1 defeat. Really one of their all-time, really one of their best. And it's hard to talk about one of their best losses, but I will say I didn't talk about this on X last night. I'm gonna I've been asked by multiple people to fish out a Gover save from that game where he more or less scorpioned Will Prey. in the third period with a couple minutes to go. Definitely one of the truly premier saves you will ever see in a Division III hockey game. Um, Really a great game from that team, though. Alex Ferris playing some of his best hockey, Shane Green playing some of his best hockey. Really just a great team effort for them last night. I think the overarching looming headline and narrative, though, in MASCAC play is it's absolute bedlam after our boys at the top in Plymouth, as we just saw Fitchburg State get mopped 7-1 by Westfield State at home last night. So anybody can beat anybody other than Plymouth State at this point in that conference, leading to assuming that the officials cooperate for their first time in their fucking lives, maybe some of the most entertaining and interesting MASCAC make MASCAC hockey watchable again. Should be the narrative for the officials covering those games the rest of the year. For the first time, there's actually interesting storylines amidst the mediocrity that is that conference. Don't fuck this up, officiating crews. Don't fuck this up, MASCAC. I mean, you will, because somehow the MASCAC continues to promote worse and worse. Their efforts to do anything with the most interesting year they've ever had in hockey on social media is an absolute fucking gong show. And, it's a real goddamn shame. It's a goddamn shame. And on that note, I'm going to hand this over to developmental updates, because unlike the MASCAC, that's actually entertaining at times, The WHL knows what it is to promote its product, where the MASCAC's idea of promoting its product right now is showing me that every team has custom mugs.
Yeah, that Lyndon DuPont type train has been exactly what it should be. And to that point, the Everett Silvertips did play last night against the Prince George Cougars, with them emerging forward 4-1 victors in a game in which they outshot one of the Titans of the British Columbia Division 41-20. As the U.S. Division, WHL's Western Conference, and WHL in general's wagon, and like the clear-cut superpower of this year, continues to be on good form, and won pretty convincingly. Anaheim Ducks prospect Terrence Smith skated away with the first star in that game with 1 goal and 1 assist, and a +3 to his name on the defensive end. Lucas Kaplan in the center had 1 assist and a +2 for the second star. Clark Schaefer, 1 assist and +1. An additional multi-point performance was had by 2025 draft eligible star and effective Swiss Army knife Carter Bear, very versatile winger, 2 assists his name in that game, 1 secondary and 1 primary on Dominic Ryman's empty netter to ice it to complement his secondary on Cole Temple's goal on the insurance marker that made it, that brought the score to 3-1. Tariq Parasiak scored the lone goal for his 20th of the year in the Capitals Prospects D+1. His form has been pretty good. Definitely a key part of why Prince George has been as competitive as they've been this season. Although on the flip side, of course, their closest competitors within their division, of course, in the form of the Victoria Royals, had a very, very strong weekend with 2 games against the Kamloops Blazers, in which they won convincingly both times. Let me pull up the game center for not this past one, but the one before last. Let's see. Yep, identical 7-1 score lines, in both for a goal differential of 14-2. And it's not as if Kamloops' like talent bereft. Like, one thing that's been working against them currently is that they are dealing with some weaknesses on the back end due to the unavailability of Pittsburgh Penguins grad pick Harrison Brunick. Um, and, and just also sort of getting the short end of the stick in a very competitive race in that division. But in that first game, defenseman Cosmo Wilson had 2 goals, 2 assists, and a +3 for the first start of the game. Kenta Isagai, recently, highly touted trade acquisition from Wenatchee, had 2 goals and 1 assist and +3. Johnny Hicks made his WHL debut in the between the pipes in this game as well, and made 24 saves on 25 shots against, and earned the 3rd star for his efforts in that matchup. Very good, very celebratory honoring of the Lunar New Year, which of course is, a significant occasion for a big part of the Victoria, BC community. But of course, last night that other 7-1 victory, we had Cole Rezhny take away the first star with 2 goals and 2 assists and a +2 to his name in that matchup, as he had the nice flashy performance like he was looking to, as like he's kind of come in and out of the lineup a bit in recent times, and he was looking for that really good finishing performance, and he had that in spades as he scored what ended up being the game-winning goals. It was the second tally of that matchup, as well as the first insurance goal, as he scored, back-to-back on the power play subsequently. The same goal line was present for each, as Tayden Trembecki, who's usually doing the goal scoring between the two. Rezhny has been a facilitator between those two, with Trembecki being the finisher, and now Isagai is another good shooter on that line, which gives him plenty of options to work with on Rezhny's part, facilitating. But it went Rezhny goal, Trembecki primary, Isagai secondary for both goals 2 and 3 of that game. So that line really got hot. It seems like they found chemistry pretty quickly. That they combined one more time, as Isagai, who earned the 3rd star, scored the 4th goal of the game, and had Rezhny credited for the primary assist and Trembecki credited for the secondary. But of course, in addition to Isagai's 3rd star selection for his 1 goal and 2 assists and +2, Brendan Lazowski, of course, former Toronto Maple Leafs draft pick, now of course committed to attend Colorado College next season, did what he does best, did what he carved out a name for himself with the Saskatoon Blades, becoming one of the greatest ever players in the history of their franchise. Tallied 2 goals back-to-backs for his 29th and 30th tallies of the year. So his, he has been just like this terrific, offensive presence for this team that made exactly the right moves at a pretty low cost at that, with them only surrendering 1 roster player to acquire both him and Isagai. Of course, it was the very popular Tanner Scott. But I think people are, like the fan base are willing to have made that sacrifice at this point, given what it's done for the team, and not having surrendered a 1st-round pick at all either, which is difficult in such high-profile CHL trades to pull off. I think they're pretty content with the way things have turned out. Lazowski's just been scoring with that same level of consistency that Cole Caulfield did in the early stages of this NHL season. It's been pretty remarkable. It's nice to see how the dynamic of the team has changed. Let's see. To that point, about Victoria's form as a cohort,
Let me pull up those CHL top performers again from last night. The 3 stars. Zane Perek got a nod in the OHL for his 3-goal, 2-assist performance. That came against. I was checking that up on that a bit. Let's see. Yes, the Guelph Storm in a 6-2 win, which got earned him the first star in that game. Michael Misa was the second star, as he had a pretty good showing as well, with 2 goals and 1 assist and a +1. Caleb Mangoni, another player taking the NCAA path with the recent opening of the Forbidden Door beginning next year, had 4 assists and a +2 in that matchup for the third star. Jet Luchenko did have a good showing despite the poor team performance, as he had a goal and an assist and a +2 and was 12 of 19 at the face-off dot. So he's working pretty well in that situation, really like representing that letter on his chest now, with him recently being appointed team captain and rising to the occasion. Let's see. Of course, Rezhny was recognized for his performance as the WHL's representative in that third in the CHL's 3 stars for last night as well. Of course, with I believe Perek being given the first, Rezhny being given the second, and the third star was given to Kasim Gaudet of the Chicoutimi Saguenines for his hat trick. Let's see. That's today, it looks like. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. That came up. That came in a matchup with the Valdor Drillers, in which Chicoutimi actually fell short, 5-4 in regulation, as Cedric Mass, faced a good number of shots, let in 4 for Valdor, but stopped 40 of them and was able to come away with the win, and they're in the first star in that matchup. Benjamin Cosset Ayat was the third star of that matchup with an assist and a +3 to his name, and serving as part of the blue line core for Valdor. Pretty good offensive matchup in the queue that night. Good showing from what's been, more, I think, a better on ice product than it's been in quite some time this year. Okay. There was some off ice matters that I'd like to address as well. So the revelatory press conference for the Brantford Bulldogs new ownership group, which of course is spearheaded by Zach Hyman of the Edmonton Oilers and members of his family. This press conference basically indicated that the Bulldogs are remaining in Brantford, even though the First Ontario Centre in Hamilton will be opening with a $290 million renovation in the coming times. To quote an article directly from the CBC, written by Conrad Kalako and Justin Chandler, let's see. Alongside former owner Michael Andlauer, the same one of the Ottawa Senators ownership group, and new owners Stu and Spencer Hyman, Brantford Mayor Kevin Davis said the Hymans and the Kevins in the city signed a 15-year memorandum of understanding for the team to be the anchor tenant in a proposed sports complex in the city. The agreement has renewal options that could extend its term to 40 years, he said, adding he's confident that the team will thrive in Brantford for decades. Zach who joined the news conference virtually from Minnesota, said he hopes to continue the team's legacy with only great things. He thanked Bradford for welcoming his family and said he can't wait to be embedded in the community. But yeah, a little bit of a mixed feeling there. It's nice to see that Org has such a firm direction and great, leadership behind it, who I'm sure will do quite well, but definitely a backbreaker for the people of Hamilton that top level junior hockey isn't coming back anytime soon from how it sounds. Unless, of course, they're awarded an expansion franchise, which, I mean, they would definitely have the grounds to do that, but I'm sure it won't be the same due to the Bulldogs' lineage in that city, whether it had been in their AHL or OHL incarnation. Let's see. I do have one more on-ice matter for the CHL that I'd like to touch upon. Let's see. In today's game against the Sudbury Wolves, the London Knights came away 8-1 victors. This was significant in that Easton Cowan, who was the first star of the game, extended his already record regular season point streak in the OHL to 60 games as he continues to grow the gap between him and Doug Gilmore, whose record he overtook earlier this season. As Cowan had 2 goals and 1 assist and a +2 in that matchup. Kasper Halttunen, San Jose Sharks, second star with 4 assists as he was a playmaker rather than his usual finisher, despite having, as a result, you typically of having one of the best shots in any developmental league, really. Probably already NHL ready in that matchup, along with a +2. Jesse Nurmi had 2 goals and a +2 in that matchup for him to be awarded the 3rd star. To touch upon some other names in that mix, of course we had Denver Barkey, the captain, Philadelphia Flyers prospect, tally a goal in that matchup as well. Let's see, what else we got? Sid Dickinson, another San Jose Sharks prospect, had a primary assist. Let's see, Barkey additionally had a secondary assist on Cowan's first goal of the night, which Dickinson had his primary on. Let me check on something here. So we also had a bit of a noteworthy moment there from Ottawa Senators prospect Blake Montgomery, he's had an interesting path. Of course, he was one of the beneficiaries of the Forbidden Door opening. He spent the last 2 years with the USHL's Lincoln Stars, but departed for the Knights during this season. His year was off to a good start already, but now he's tuning up in a great environment in London in prep for his the beginning of his career with the University of Wisconsin next season. And he registered, let's see, in this matchup, let's see, he had, was it just the 1 assist? Maybe. But, I mean, nevertheless, yeah, just the 1 assist and the +1. But nevertheless, like, after a 10 points in 10 game start with Lincoln at the beginning of the year, which is respectable, especially given, the not so great trends in offensive productivity across the USHL this year. And Lincoln's so-so situation, we'll put it that way. But with him at 34 points, 17 goals and 17 assists apiece in 27 games since joining London, definitely, a good environment for him to be tuning up in. let me see. The revelatory press conference for the new Brantford Bulldogs ownership group came on the same day as the inaugural Connor McDavid OHL Top Prospects game, showcasing the best 2025 draft eligible prospects from the OHL this year. Of course, it rung a bit hollow with Matthew Schaefer recently selected as the top prospect in the draft in NHL Central Scouting's midterm rankings on availability due to his upper body injury that he suffered during the World Juniors. But we did have some good looks from Jake O'Brien in that matchup with him having 3 assists and a +2 in that game, including assisting on Porter Martone's OTGWG. In something of an upset, I definitely anticipated, even with Schaefer's absence, that the West just had the talent advantage, but the East had a bit of a surprise for us. And it was nice. Like, it was a pretty high-paced, pretty intense game. Definitely didn't have like an all-star game vibe. These guys treated it exactly the way they should. A chance to showcase themselves and increase their draft stock. So I thought that was pretty cool to watch. We also have a change in the dynamics recently. 4 days ago, it was announced that Mikhail Yegorov has, honestly, I'll just say, escaped the Omaha Lancers and is now at Boston University and will be on campus at ComAv and with the team for the second semester. To that point about the USHL, for a quick update on the Dubuque Fighting State's fortune as they become something of a main character in these updates. Let me take a look. Come on, load. Okay, there we go. That's better. Yeah, how did they tune out? How did things shake out last week? Well, their record on the year is looking pretty good. For a quick update on the overall picture, 25 9-0-1, accounting for a 729 points percentage, as well as a 10-4-1 record, 10-4-0-1 record in their conference. They're playing better on the road than they are at home, with the respective record of 10-5 as opposed to the 14-3, 0-1. Let's see. This past week, they had a series on the road, 2 games with the Youngstown Phantoms. They fell 5-4 in a shootout loss, although it goes in the books as a tie in a very NCAA-esque manner. And but also last night skated to a 4-0 victory. So a 3 out of a possible 4 points. I think they'll take that. Insert Meatloaf reference here. Let's see. For that second performance, we did have a goal from Heikki Ruohonen for the third of the match. He also had a good presence on the penalty kill, so good form from like the all situations player committed to Harvard University and whose NHL rights lie with the Philadelphia Flyers. And for a special edition closeout for this week's edition, we have some Massachusetts high school updates, specifically from the Merrimack Valley Conference. So Methuen
the Methuen High School Rangers boys hosted the 50th anniversary of the inaugural team from the 1974-75 campaign. I believe from what I can recall, I believe Ken Schilling, who was the first team ever captain, first ever team's captain, was a primary driving force in getting that organized, as well as teammate Curtis Goulet, from what I recall. It was a very special occasion, as a good chunk of the team was able to attend, with only, I believe, maybe 3 of the surviving members of that team not able to attend, with them living in different parts of the country, although a good number did actually travel from out of state to make this happen, or from other parts of the region. It was quite interesting to see and quite inspiring, as Schelling delivered a pregame locker speech to the guys about life lessons and that can be imparted from their dedicating themselves to this, and just enjoying the best years of their lives, not taking it for granted. Not a pre-scripted speech at all, totally improvised, but he definitely seemed prepared, and it seemed to resonate with the guys in the room. And there were some artifacts brought in, including Schelling's jersey, as well as from that season, as well as the stick owned by Frank Mystic, which was used to score the first ever goal in program history in a competitive game against Austin Prep, which Schelling also tallied the assist on, to add some more significance to that jersey's presence. That Schelling's jersey was hung up on the glass behind the home bench for that matchup, and the mojo seemed to work, which led for the post-game banquet held in the cafeteria to really, feel celebratory, as Methuen defeated the Drake at Tingsboro Middies by a score of 5-3 in a very competitive matchup in which there were some ebbs and flows in control of the game. Methuen exited the first period with a 2-0 lead, which was evaporated within the first 5 minutes and 15 seconds of second period action. They rebuilt it and had to withstand one more comeback effort, but they did a good job, putting themselves in position to score goals in close, as well as just get pucks on net and create their own PDO luck, so to speak. It was definitely a thrill to all those in attendance. It was definitely a staple of pride for the alumni, both those on that team as well as teams in subsequent past eras who decided to show up and show their support and appreciation for that squad, as well as this current team was turning into something of an MVP powerhouse with 3 consecutive conference titles and maybe a chance at defending it again this year. Their record now sits at, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2-1 on the year. I believe Drake had the better record going into this game. So for them to, take another step in improving their winning record against someone who's on paper a superior opponent, who they tied with in that earlier matchup in the season on the road in the Zonga Center, was definitely a good result, all told. Just a lot of good narratives on and off the ice in that occasion. I was able to speak, with a few people involved in that process. I got some good gems. I have to really give credit to Bill Blackwell, especially the head coach. Of course, has done so much for the program as an intelligence systems guy and a great, leader of men and just a great culture cultivator in that room. He really took it seriously, to honor these guys because they talk about honoring tradition and the guys who came before them a lot as is, and then to have it there, really made it resonate. I actually was able to get a story from his days at Masconomet Regional when I spoke to him afterwards, because I asked, like, with all the years you've been here, there has to be, do kids ever ask you what it was like to coach Chris Kreider before he was Chris Kreider? And he said, "Oh yeah." And I'll share a story with you from those days. In my wisdom, as smart as I am, this, when he first came out for us, I assigned him to the JV team for his first game, and then I quickly realized it was a mistake. He gets the bump up to the varsity, at the next possible juncture, and he has a hat trick and 3 assists in his first varsity game for us. And then I realized, I messed that one up. I was able to fix my mistake, but that's exactly why when you see his stats from his first 2 years of high school before he transferred to Phillips, he had 19 games played as opposed to 20 the next season because I put him on JVs because I'm not that smart. And it was a nice little bit of self-effacing from Bill there, that he basically was acknowledging implicitly without saying it, like, I was just, lucky to be a part of this. I didn't have any real part in developing that kid. He just, was going to be what he became, and I just happened to be a stop along the way. And it makes sense when I consider the path that and how it happened, because you're at a program like that. You imagine that a lot of coaches are probably sheltering those guys so they can get a national championship out of them and prevent them from transferring to a better program. But not only did Blackwell not do that, but one thing I was told and have heard at least once before, I believe, was that Blackwell was actually an advocate for Kreider making that transfer to Phillips Academy. And the conversation that occurred between him and Phillips head coach at the time, I'm going to have the name in just a second. He was there for quite a while. It was Dean something. I feel so bad for forgetting. Hold on. Yeah, Dean Boylan. There we go. Local guy who had a stint in the pros and then was a key figure in that program for years. I think the conversation basically went something along the lines of Boylan was convinced that if Kreider were really all that, then he would have already been on the radar of the program. But Blackwell basically sold Kreider to Boylan and got him to give him a look. And, with him having just absolutely dominated to the tune of like over 2 points per game in his sophomore season and helping them win that conference title pretty decisively, I think I'm sure that there wasn't much of like an uphill battle at all to pitch him. And we know what's happened since, he was part of a solid team with Garnet Hathaway amongst one of his teammates, Bobby Farnham, as captain. Of course, aside from all those prep honors, like Prep Player of the Year, All New England East, he rode that high to 2 national titles at BC. So, his trajectory panned out ultimately. And it's good that he had such a phenomenal advocate. But he might not think much of his role in that story, but nevertheless, like it's a stop along the way, and he was like Blackwell was basically able to make it happen, like that next phase. So it's like, pretty cool. Nice little bow on things for this week's block.
Speaking of Chris Kreider, I do wonder, and I've thought about this as the year has gone on, and as we approach the deadline, there's got to be a way that he's going to be a Bruin at the deadline, isn't he? Like, the Bruins need a second-line winger. The Rangers need to, they've already made it clear they're moving Chris Kreider at some point in the next 2 months. Brandon Carlo for Chris Kreider is probably a trade that makes sense for both teams. Just putting that out in the ether.
Yeah.
Bring him home.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about the position they're in, because like the Rangers have gone on a pretty good run to sort of turn their fortunes, and like Kreider finally being on top six form after like all the consistency woes, as well as like the misfortunes that have fallen upon him this year, and just overcoming them and having that good finishing form is part of why they did well on that road trip, especially. But like, you gotta look at the overarching dynamic and how it's just time to turn the page on this group. And it's like, I have like mixed feelings, like just looking at things from like a management and team building perspective on how this competitive window was for the Rangers. Like, I think that uh, sure, you can say like they did a good job in a vacuum and got like good competitive seasons out of it, and just ultimately fell short. It's hard to win the cup, but it's like I also think it's like it was designed to fail in a way, because like the whole I actually am fine with the whole outside in approach when it comes to offensive attacks, but like you also don't want your centers to be guys who have to get elevated. And then when you have that elevation increasingly get more and more difficult year by year, it only compounds the issues. They also have basically no defensemen that are really worth giving a second look beyond Adam Fox. I'm going to just say it. Like, I really don't think highly of Keandre Miller at this stage in his career. I think it's just time for them to just, start that tear down and start changing the dynamic of the team. Like, it just seems to be the natural culmination at this point.
In a vacuum, knowing what this team had done in the 2018 and 2019 off seasons, well, 2019 and 2020, I fundamentally don't. And this is a hindsight being 2020, but I know it was talked about. I'm genuinely unsure why the Rangers ever used the pick they took Kako with. Like, I'm gonna go bigger. I'm gonna go fucking mega mind on this. Fuck how they fucked up his development, and then they traded him, and the team finally gave him a legitimate look as a top six player, and he's yielding offensive output, which you would expect from a guy with his toolkit. Ignoring all of that, when they won the draft lottery in 2019 to move up to the second overall selection, like this was a team that was in playoff contention at that point in time. If you're like, both them and Chicago screwed the pooch in that draft by just not trading their respective fucking picks for actual roster players. Like, the kind of roster haul you could have gotten for that second overall pick in 2019 would have probably been far more valuable in their attempt to actually win a championship after they handed Panarin that massive free agent deal in the Zibanejad extension, in the Kreider extension, in the Fox extension. Like, there's really no conceivable logical reason as to why the fuck they used that pick instead of trading out of it. And that's what I don't get with like GMs now. Like, yeah, I'm all for like taking the risk, getting the guy, but like, I kind of am agreeing with shit. I can't remember Brisebois, current GM for Tampa Bay.
Yes, Julian.
Like, when you think about what he did in the Tanner Jeannot trade, like if you actively are competing, if you luck your way into an incredibly valuable high pick that's not going to be an impact for you for 3 years, and you're actively all in to win a championship, like you could have flipped that pick in 2019 to a team like LA or Detroit or Buffalo and gotten, a veteran player like I don't know, fucking like at that point in time you could have gotten a guy who
Imagine Dylan Larkin, the Ranger.
like it could have had like you could have like you think about the Red Wings who could have had Capo Caco who they would have failed to develop as we've seen with how they've done most of their forwards. But like the Red Wings thinking that they could have had Capo Caco and Moritz Seider in the same draft, like they're going to give up a high value, piece in that deal. And it confuses me where like if you luck your way and like we look at what I think it was Colorado did, when they took like they lucked their way into Bowen Byram and they just like they could have traded out of the Byram pick, but instead they just and unlike what the Rangers just did, when they moved on from Byram, they got, Casey Middlestat in the return. So like the you got fucking Will Borgen back for a second overall pick. You should have just traded like and I like if you're gonna give up on a prospect, you have to do it before if there's anything I've learned from playing be a GM mode in Shell, you gotta trade the prospects you don't have faith in
Yeah.
when other people still do to get the most return back. Like this isn't it's bad it's bad general management. Like just trade the fucking pick if you don't like we see this in the NFL all the time. Teams throw like good teams throw away first round draft picks at the deadline every year. Trade. I think it was the first person I heard ever say it was Bruce Boudreau. Of first round draft picks are at their least valuable at the deadline, and they're at their most valuable on draft night. Just trade your fucking assets, because then you look at all the first rounders the Rangers have traded for throwaway shit players, shit returns. I'm gonna backpedal. The shit returns you get at the deadline, like why trade your first round pick for a fucking rental when you can trade it away for a long term asset that at least has ROI for you? Like you look at the Boston Bruins, man, had they traded, their first round picks, instead of getting 20 games of Dmitry Orlov and 20 games out of fucking Tyler Bertuzzi in the 65 win season, like you could have potentially gotten, I don't know, Capo Caco for that first round pick at the fucking draft in, I don't know. I'm on a heater on something that's never going to change because GMs don't, as I was saying last night at a D3 hockey game, all these motherfuckers need to take a stats class. Why is probability like, do we not know what parabola curves are? Do we not know what linear regressions are? Do we not know what probability? Like, does nobody in the world of hockey understand probabilities and how important? Like, maybe I'm too analytical. Maybe I'm too tactical. But for fuck's sake, take a fucking stats class to determine ROI. Like, it's not that difficult.
Yeah. I think that, as often pointed out, like the phenomenon of, uh, you know, the fact that top five and oftentimes even top 10. Although you've had your rare exceptions here and there. Uh, like those picks just don't get moved in the cap era, no matter who has them. And it's like I can understand that perspective if you just bottomed out this year and you're in the process of like you know uh, either getting that piece to start things off as like your franchise player, or like you're in that stage where you're looking for the complimentary guy who isn't even necessarily the other superstar, but makes sense as the supporting cast member to the guy. And every so often, I can even justify like these, using these picks if you like just like fleeced it, fleeced it off of someone in a deal, and in a year like prior to a year like where you were expected to compete, that you just happen to get that pick, i.e., the Bruins draft stock from the Phil Kessel trade. Even though they ended up, of course, in their wisdom, quitting on both Sagan and Hamilton too early. But like, it's just like, most of the time, especially in a year where it's like there's some questions about the class, like why don't you just, if you're positioned that well and you're either already competing or on the verge of turning the page, like there's the amount of benefit you can get to your goals that you have as an org are more easily met, like the overwhelming majority of the time, by moving those picks for like tangible value and certainty, rather than just using the pick. Like my principle of like stockpiling picks, if you're just going to use them all as a waste of time, has even more like layers of like dynamics to it, judging by like organizational situations. And admittedly, like I think that the player dev situation is not even something to be glossed over, because like I mean it has been an organizational failing for them. I think they've changed the staff around a bit to where like you don't have to worry if you're a Rangers fan, like, oh, is the Gabriel Peralta are going to be good? One, I think that kid's going to be good no matter what. He's been the driver of two incarnations of the US NTDP line now. And like two, I mean, I think that the situation overall is improving. But it's like, there's just no real reason to just stick it out and play it safe. If you're, at a point where you're able to just win now, just get something that serves that end game, rather than just like looking to the future when it doesn't really have any benefit for you.
Yeah. And on that note, I think it's a good point to roll into our big finish for the week as the snow continues to pile up outside for a second Meatloaf reference this evening.
I'm gonna just be direct here. I like kind of eye rolling at the point at the over exaggeration of, about from Flyers media and from just our knuckle dragging fans about what Scott Lawton's value could be as a trade piece, and like this high asking price, which I think even Danny Briere seems to have, and possibly even John Tortorella himself, as he seems to just have such massive input on like the personnel situation, to where you can viably assert that, judging by his evaluations of guys who had to go, i.e., Ivan Provorov and Kevin Hayes, to change the dynamic of the rum, as he calls it. that, and you could just like assert that, you know, that he probably most likely has a considerable amount of input on this as well. That said, honestly, like, I don't even care if and I think I've probably even had this point before. I don't care if this is like you can get like a high-end piece out of something that you acquire from a hypothetical Scott Lawton deal occurs. I do not care if you get a first-round pick for him. We have too many picks as is, and I am, you know, really, really concerned that this org is not going to heed my warning from my op-ed, even though they have every statistical reason not to use all of those picks. I just want him off the team. Like, I don't care what how you abstractly evaluate his impacts culturally. I respect that he's done, you know, a considerable amount of like you know, civic engagement and all of that, and is just generally a good person. But like, the objective is to win, and at a certain point, like, just doing the addition by subtraction thing is worth it. And with him being one of the players last year, one of three alongside Nick DeLaurier and Cam Atkinson to have had a negative impact on the expected goal shares of every single player that they played with, embodying the word anchor, you literally at that point just have to accept anything you're offering. You're being offered just to get it to you know, make some sort of forward progress, and just by getting that detriment off the ice, I literally am imploring you. The next trade offer you get from Scott Lawton, you have to accept. I don't care what it is. It could be a 7th round pick for all I care. He needs to go. I'm done. Like, there are other good people on this team and good locker room guys besides him. If the room is broken and the organizational culture is broken because of the loss of Scott Lawton, then this org deserves to fall apart. I'm sorry, but I'm done with this bullshit.
Speaking of bullshit, you know, last year I danced on the graves of the UMass Little River Hawks after an embarrassing defeat to West Point. Now, Army is having a very good season, and UMass Lowell is having a very good season. Both programs on ice have had very good seasons. They have regained their respect. Army more so than UMass Lowell after this weekend. UMass Lowell, you come out of the winter break, you pick up a win against Michigan Tech. You pick up a win against Omaha. You drop a couple of tough games against a UMaine team that is objectively better than you. And you have one non-conference game before a Hockey East gamut where you're going to run Prov, BC, Merrimack, VT, Connecticut, Northeastern, Prov, Mass, UNH into the end of the season. You have one non-conference game against players that are so questionable that I have seen them play during their prep school days on a team that won less than 10 games in a season. Jake Cady, I'm looking at you. You go into a game against Stonehill College, who is widely laughed at by not only D1 players, but also D2 and D3 players, as they are one of the weakest D1 programs. And they come into your barn after you just dropped back-to-back games in that building to the University of Maine, a rival, so to speak, in the Hockey East Association hierarchy of one of the non-Boston schools that actually has achieved something, much like UML. And you play against Stonehill College, and you fucking lose in overtime at home. How do you... Look, Norm Bazin is the greatest coach in program history, and I know Denver losing an exhibition game to UNLV was bad, but there was a lot of PDO bad luck and just bad luck in that game. That was an exhibition in the team. Probably got bagged for the next 5 days after that. This was not an exhibition game. This was a legitimate Division I college hockey game against an objectively, subjectively, substantially weaker fucking opponent who is playing Plymouth State next month. This is a team that has a D3 team on their fucking schedule. And you lost while being nationally ranked. It's a fucking embarrassment.
It's amazing, like, because those first two wins, like, off the break, were part of an invitational tournament out in Coachella Valley, which, they captured hardware, which, like, fairly useful-ish for the pairwise, but mostly, like, useful for rankings. They turned around, like, they were shorthanded. Like Budazzoni, for instance, was not available for those games against Maine. But it's like, they just they're at that next level, which, like, UMass little took steps to, like, knock on the doors with their recruiting for this season, as well as having better fortune with health than they did last year. But they're just, like, to turn around and then, like, to drop to, a team that's maybe, like, barely better than Robert Morris University, if at all. Like, it's just like, no, that's not okay under any circumstances.
Like, I don't think Stonehill could beat Hobart in the best of 5. I don't think they could beat a top 5 D3 school in a best of 5. How the
Just think they beat, like, Simon Fraser, like, 9-0 or something like that in that exhibition. Like, you
Yeah.
get that right exactly the way you should. And then, like, have this game be tight at all and then come out on the losing side. It's a nadir. Like, and you wonder now, like, does this refocus them or does it break them?
I mean, in the national polls, this almost assuredly has to drop them beyond 15,
Yeah, I already
if not out
realized
of the
that.
top 20.
I acknowledged it. But, like, how do you respond as a group? Like, is this going to fuck them up or what?
You know, I well, I'm gonna look to the annals of history, Liam. I'm gonna look to last season, and
Yeah, well, not really comparing like for like, as we've established.
no, but I think about, like, after their loss to Army, the only win they would pick up for the next, the run to the end of the season. I mean, the fact that they would go on to then lose to Holy Cross twice, like, this is a program where, like, before the loss to Army, they were not good, but, like, they were going. I mean, their margin of defeat exploded after the loss to Army. Like, that, this team stopped being competitive, with the exception of one weird win against Northeastern. And now I'm coming to think, like, how is it the Songus? Because this team only won 2 games there last year, and they've only won 4 out of their 11 contests there this year. Like,
Consistently better on the road. It certainly doesn't help, but, like, I don't know. I wanna give this group the benefit of the doubt to an extent, just because they have more depth than that team, and, like, more experience, and, like, they were heavily injured down the stretch,
yeah.
but, like, it it also, like, doesn't bode well from, like, a group psychology standpoint, but you also have to, like, wonder what difference it'll make to have different guys in the room. But, like, I really like even before this, I thought the Providence matchup was going to be super significant, and if they get him like even so much as like fairly convincingly defeated there, then you can probably kiss the rest of the season goodbye. Is kind of my expectation.
Yeah. Well, it's going to definitely be a very compelling it's going to be a very compelling series Friday and Saturday for both programs respectively.
Yeah, you gotta at least have like a decent showing at home, or like I just it won't bode well for the other matchup, and at that point, that kind of just like ruins your standing, and not to project, but probably your confidence for the rest of the run.
Oh yeah.
But
Well, that's all I got this week.
yeah, so for a quick update on the ongoing Eastern Conference action from tonight's slate of NHL games. After one period, I think the intermission seems to be wrapping up. We've got the New York Rangers up 2-1 on the Montreal Canadiens. Another team, whose fortunes like seeming to change might not necessarily be the best thing for them or really be indicative of anything. Especially in light of that, you know, turn of events, we'll say, against Toronto. But yeah, this definitely has been a fairly fun watch so far, nevertheless. But yeah, that about wraps it up. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. Thank you to everyone who's checking us out on Spotify and YouTube. It's been good. Now we've rattled a couple of full-length episodes off in a row. We like even in the instances we were showing up, we had to keep it a bit short for various logistical reasons. But we'll have a steady diet. Thank you to people who've been checking out my WHL content. I have one more profile to wrap up that last bit of 2025 draft eligible names from the dub. I won't say who it is specifically I have in mind, but I will say I had some glowing praise for him during my dev block in this episode earlier. And, I think you guys will enjoy that one a fair bit, and I look forward to dropping it on you. But yeah, that said, another great round. We look forward to the next one. Take care, everybody. Have a great night.